I had a look at a documentary last night called Ukraine on Fire. And the surprising thing about it was there was nothing in it that I didn't already know. And it's being lambasted now as like Russian propaganda, even though it's a 6-year-old documentary. And I've shared it around. I've put it about to people to say, well, if you want the other side of this story, and this is a long story and there's a lot of ins and outs to it, and if you've not been following it, if you've not been following it on the internet, if you've not been following it on things like, and on literally RT, or like even Press TV, because they used to cover it. They used to cover what was going on, but they were biased as well. They were all in support of the demonstrators as well. Everyone, all of the media, all of it, and it's like you weigh up who's behind this, and you're like, who's got the media on side here? Who sorted this out? And it's all, well, U.S. State Department, George Soros, the open fucking open democracy, whatever he calls it, Soros. And it's like, who's Soros backed here? Oh, the ultra right-wing extremists. Oh, there's ultra right-wing extremists in Ukraine. It's like, oh yeah. It's like, and they're dangerous people as well, because they've been actively recruiting on the internet for maybe 10 years. It's like, I don't get so much in my time as to having like debate on the internet, right? Talking and saying, hey, hang on a minute. Because I've been at it for a long time. I have a lot of time on my hands, so I engage in this kind of stuff, and I've done for years. So like, I can engage and win with hardline social justice leftists. That's not too difficult. Just that they don't change. You can win, but they don't change. Nothing you say makes any difference to where they feel. You can convince somebody that their beliefs are absolute bunkum and only there to suit their own purposes. And then when they feel they need them, they just simply reach for them again as if it's a reflex. You can't deprogram someone who's been brainwashed, because there's hardware damage there that nobody in the world can fix, only they can address. So it's like, you can win the debate, you can walk away, but as soon as you're out of earshot, as soon as something gets that adrenaline flowing, it's all undone. They just go back to exactly how they were before. And this be one of the great kind of mysteries of my life as to why do we end up having the same conversation over and over again, and I always win the debate, but we still have the same debate over and over again? And it took me a long time to work it out. But when I worked it out, it was a matter of, there's no words I can say that can mend somebody's broken emotional system and porous subconscious, and that they react emotionally far faster than they can think. Because I get that. I get triggered. People fired at me, they fire things at me, make me fucking blood boil. But thing is, I can go, think, and stop it. Don't have to get carried away. Don't have to lose my temper. I can stop it when the blood rushes, when I, get the vapours. I think as I get older, because I say I'm someone in the future who's likely, with all the fucking smoking, to have big problems with heart, blood pressure, all that kind of thing. And it may be that it'll come a day where I can no longer do that, and I'll be like, you fucking what? Right? There may come a day when I've no longer got this ability to hold on to it, and then it's like, then you're in heart attack territory. You see, that's the thing, these guys who get enraged all the time, it's like, when you get to my age in your mid-40s, and that's what you do, it's like you put so much strain on your body that eventually you'll have a stroke or a heart attack and you will die from it. I get this. I know so many people who've croaked in the 40s. Like Shane Warne's dead. What's Shane Warne 52 dead? Right? What's Shane Warne's sin? Oh, smoking. Smoking and a poor diet and too much drink. He had a very similar lifestyle to my own. It's like he was, say Warne is dead, and it's like, I don't know Warney, but I know people who know him because he used to play for Accrington. And they're like, his sort of way, he didn't do well for Accrington. They were disappointed with him. He didn't get enough wickets and he didn't score enough runs for him to be a professional. So they kind of sent him back. But they liked him. But then when they got to know him, it's like, all right, this is a guy who, whenever there's drink around, and if you're a professional at a cricket club, people will be always buying you a drink. As long as there's a drink around, one is drinking. As long as there's a smoke around, one is smoking. And as long as he's getting approached by young women, he's shagging. As to where one is like, in cricket, you know, cricket's a weird old thing. Cricket has more women around it open to shag a celebrity than most other sports. So it's like when Shane Warne died, there'll have been all kinds of people in Accrington all crying their eyes out and bursting into tears because it was like, I loved him. And it's like, yeah, well, he loved half at slags in Accrington. It's like, this is the life he led that led to him being dead at 52 from natural causes. What happened? Died of an heart attack. There's more than one way of burning your candle at both ends. And to go into a fucking rage every time somebody goes beep, 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 and pushes your buttons and pulls your strings, that's one way of ending up fucking dead. That's one way of ending up dead real early. But anyway, I watched that and I've put it around and I've had feedback from strangers saying, well, that's Russian propaganda. I'm like, Russian propaganda from 6 years ago? And it'd be a matter of, this documentary was produced by Oliver Stone. Have you seen his military record? This guy's a patriot. It's like, if you look at his history, it's like he did 2 tours in Vietnam. It's like he's a decorated, honourably discharged officer. It's like he's been in the shit. He's got 2 Purple Hearts. Like what? Yes, wounded. That guy's been shot. That guy's been hit in battle. And it's like, on the subject of, let's say, war, right? Right and left join forces and can be as one. To fight against war and war lies and war propaganda, you need the right and the left to combine. And usually when a war kicks off, what you get is you get an anti-war coalition always form, and it's made up of left and right. And you need the left to help the right. The 2 forces work really well together. As to where you'll get it where now a new anti-war movement will rise up real quickly. And most of them will be like Black Lives Matter activists and the like. And they'll be talking sense about what's going on in a foreign country. Because it's like those guys, right? They have no love for white supremacist Nazis. So it's like, your BLM activist will come out against the Ukrainian government in view of the fact that they're white supremacist Nazis. And it's like, that's a bit strong, isn't it, John? It's like, what's easier to believe? Putin bad, evil Putin, Putin insane, Putin aggression, or you're basically bald man bad, right? Or, oh, there's been a load of push and shove going on in this place for the best part of 20 years. And the US are behind it all. Really? It's like, yeah. It's like, without US involvement, those fucking Nazi crazy bastards, led by pretty much Klitschko, a fucking boxer, celebrity. It's like they are neo-Nazis, hardline fucking racists who believe in the purity of Ukrainian blood. And he'd be like, surely not, John. Surely they're not like that. So, well, the people who are able to manipulate the crowd over there, that's what they are. It's like, if you're not on side with the racism and the anti-Semitism in that peer group, you are a fucking enemy and an outsider. They will accuse you of being a kike or a Ruski. And these would be terms of like racial hate. It's like there's a situation coming to the fore here as to where you've got in that Zelensky. He's your new Hitler. He's your new fantasist, dangerous elitist. And it appears to me that he's trying to drag the whole world into his war. Like, the Ukraine maybe not be enough for Zelensky. He wants to see the whole thing go down. And it's like those who've like pushed him to the front and those who've backed the movement that he's ostensibly now leader of. And they knew full well these people were Nazis and dangerous. It's like, I mentioned it in my video yesterday, it's like, Zbigniew Brzezinski. It's like, we need to make moves so the Chinese and the Russians are never friends. And India and Pakistan never make friends with Russia, never make Russia a friend. Turkey never get involved with Russia. It's like, we have to, in all these border countries, we have to make sure that everything always remains at sixes and sevens with Russia. Otherwise, if they eventually make friends and start to trade with each other, that'll be the end of the United States as the world's only superpower. Because fundamentally, the United States are a sea power. And their ability to be able to lay tanks on your ass is extremely limited. So they've got aircraft, they've got ships. But it's a matter of these land powers, they've got armies, they've got tanks, they've got a different approach, they've got a different, they operate in different spheres. It's like the sea powers and the land powers can't really go to war with each other. Why? Because on land, the land powers will win by a walkover, and at sea, the sea powers will win by a walkover. There is a balance of powers. But when the main land powers in the world, and you can check this, you can go and check out how many fucking tanks they've got. The main land powers in the world are Russia, China, Turkey. On the land, because that's mostly what they have to concern themselves with, they dominate. They are land superpowers. We've got a few different kinds of superpower in the world. Israel are an air superpower, militarily. All them others I've just mentioned, land superpowers, and supposedly Britain, but we've just completely abandoned our role in the world. So it's like, our word ain't worth shit. It's a reflection as to where our leadership and politicians are bananas, absolutely worthless. It's like fucking Angela Rayner. You get Angela Rayner mouthing off about what's going on abroad, and it's a matter of all she knows is what she's read in The Guardian. And The Guardian used to actually cover Ukraine. But since the war started, since the most recent things have come about, they've completely changed. Since The Guardian got caught wrong, or supposedly caught wrong, when Glenn Greenwald used to write for him, and the old Snowden thing came out, and the police came and raided the place and took their computers and hard drives with all this information that Snowden, which they'd already published and that was already in the public domain. Ever since then, The Guardian's been the opposite of what it was. It's now fully social justice, fully rah-rah America. It's an American publication now. It's like CNN. But once upon a time, they used to report on the Ukraine. Unbelievable, isn't it? That once upon a time, the Guardian of the left was an anti-war publication that liked to keep people informed about what was going on abroad, and America was no friend to them. But now, oh, Putin, war criminal. Okay. America never ever committed a war crime anywhere. Well, they've never got in trouble for anything, have they? There's never a question that there's been an American war crime. There's never a question. It's a conspiracy theory if you say that America had taken part in all these coups. Regime changes. When it was common knowledge at the time, reported, but it's like now for someone who's got a long memory of what's the post Cold War, right? You're apparently just now a Russian spy. And it's like, fuck me. It's like, that crew, right, who are actually white supremacist racist, right? Pro-European, pro-ethno-state, right? These fucking idiots, right? They attack the right. They come after people like me. Why? So they can be the right. So they can be the voice of the right. So they can be the controlled opposition. It's like, hang on a minute, you talk too much sense, and you talk sometimes like you're a massive lefty, and it's like, yeah, and I also talk like I'm a massive righty, don't I? Because the left and the right mean nothing. It's a matter of right and wrong and what's fair and what's moral, and it's a matter of it's not just rhetoric. If it's immoral, it's not just me thinks it's immoral. It's the people on the ground who've been fucked over who think it's immoral as well. So I'm saying, look, if I think it's fucking wrong, there's other people who think it's wrong, and there's other people in the world who might be directly involved and they might take direct action to retaliate, as anyone would, as you would expect them to. But no, it's off the table now. Some fucking sap on there said to me, I suggest that you, if you're sharing Russian propaganda like this, you need to check other sources. You need to see the other side of the story, and it's a matter of, are you for fucking real? Because the other side of the story is just Putin, man, bad, Russian aggression. It's like, I'm dying for someone to tackle me and say, well, the Russians invaded Crimea first. They're trying to swallow up the country. And I'm like, yeah, it's like Crimea's a fucking belter, isn't it? It's like Crimea was given to the territory of Ukraine while it was under the USSR by Khrushchev, who was a Ukrainian. It's like one of the main leaders of Russia in the Cold War, like probably the main guy. After Stalin went, it was Khrushchev for a good few years. He's the main player, Khrushchev. He was a Ukrainian. And he was the president of the Soviet Union. He gave Crimea to Ukraine. He added it to their territory because he's a Ukrainian. So then it was a matter of, once all that shit kicked off in Kiev with those fucking crazy right-wingers using bulldozers against the cops, going in armed against an unarmed police force, there's a scene, it's like that. Watch that, because I knew everything. I know everything that's in that Ukraine on fire, because I've studied it for a long time. There was nothing in there that was new. But seeing some of the things that they'd added to it, that they got the clips as to where there was a football match in Odessa, and because there was an excuse for a lot of travelling fans to be in the city, the travelling fans were infiltrated by the right-wing militias, and the right-wing militias burned the government building to the ground. And then there was a clip from Ukrainian television where it was reported that 20 people were killed and 30 people were injured, but they were all Russians, right? Or Russian sympathisers. and the TV audience crowd, you know, when you've got the live TV audience, they all clapped. You're like, how long ago was this, John? 2015. The audience clapped. That crazy bastard Saakashvili, who used the same tactics to seize power in Georgia, and then the people removed from power when he started a war with Russia, and the people of Georgia, they side with the Russians, they don't side with the Nazis. So Saakashvili was able to escape from Georgia, and he became the governor of Odessa. What? Yeah, he went to the Ukraine and was given Ukraine citizenship and immediately became the governorship of Odessa. And they had documents from the US as to where the US was paying Saakashvili, the former dictator and dangerous maniac who'd taken over Georgia. For being the governor of Odessa, they were paying him an additional $200,000 a year. So Saakashvili is the CIA's man in Odessa. And Odessa, more people who see themselves as Russian. So it's a matter of now you've got a situation where Putin's forces are on the way to Odessa. It's a beautiful old city. The people are ready to fight. It's like, no. It's like the Ukrainian police might have been able to stifle the dissent with the force of violence. But it's like, no, Putin won't have to send his land forces in there. He can just ignore the place and it'll eventually fall to him. What? Oh, yeah. So that country's balkanized. That country's split in half. The east of it, they all see themselves as ethnic Ukrainians, but most of them are Poles. What? He's like, yeah. Most of them are Poles. And then on the west of the country, they all see themselves as Russian and speak Russian. Why? Because it was all one great big fucking country once. And it's like this tribal division, because that's what it is, because they behave in a tribal manner. It's like this tribal has been deliberately messed with, deliberately made worse by the US State Department in an effort to make, as Hillary Clinton put it once, to turn Ukraine into another Afghanistan or Vietnam. And again, that's old Zbigniew Brzezinski thinking. As to where it's like, oh, we at the top, we play the great game. We play the great game. And it's a matter of, oh, the great game. I played a great game in my mind. And so do they. And it's a matter of, I probably play it better than they do. I don't get to play. There are others who play the great game well and don't get to play either. It's like, they don't give fuck one for those people. And you know, there's a thing, right? The greatest way, the best way, right, of avoiding being found responsible, taking the blame for something. And the greatest obstacle to the truth, right, is always, no one would believe it true. You can put up like an imaginary magical force field. So why did Jimmy Savile get away with being a pedo for all his public life? A proper predator. How did he get away with it? Because no one would believe it true. That guy used to hang around my school who molested every fucking kid in the school practically. Why did he get away with it? Because no one would believe it true. Fucking lefties. Giving people the benefit of the doubt. So it's a matter of the truth. The truth is that the primary tactic of the Ukrainians is to throw bodies at things, create martyrs, and then say, look what they did. And that's been their tactic since 2013. And then you get those reports coming in of those idiots who've gone over there to fight, and they're saying, they're not harming us. They're practically not feeding us. They're giving us no weapons or ammunition, and they're trying to send us to the front to get blown to pieces by artillery. They're using us as cannon fodder, and they're counting our dead as their dead. And it's like, yeah, they've done that all along. That's what they've done. It's like they create martyrs. They'll kill people themselves and say, look what you did. And they've been doing it from the start. And it's like, surely not, John. No one would be so ruthless as that. And it's like, yeah, and that's why they get away with it. You fucking saps. You know the old saying, evil will thrive when good men do nothing, right? There's more to it than that. Evil will thrive when good men won't believe it to be true because it is in fact so evil, and because they don't see that in themselves, they don't see it in the other. And it's like, is there a way of teaching somebody that education and getting them to actually understand what humans are? And it's like, yeah, funnily enough, there is. What's that? You ever seen a movie called V for Vendetta? Of course you have. What does V do to that? The Natalie Portman character, Evie. What does he do to her? So she understands and she sees the world as he does. He tortures her. And then when she realises it's him, she's like, you tortured me. How could anyone be so cruel? And it's a matter of, well, they tortured me. That's how I was created. It's like, now you know something. Now you fucking know something. Now you know what people are capable of. And now you know what your enemy's capable of. And now do you see why it needs to be stopped? Now do you see it? It's like, I'm working class. It's like working class people. We are the victims of crime. We are the people who get brutalised. And a lot of us know what people are capable of. Many of us have been betrayed, ripped off, abused by our own families. We get it. We've been sent to school and the people tasked with taking care of us and keeping us safe have seen us get molested and miseducated us and turned us into IRA sympathisers. It's like, things are not going well for you, John. It's like, it's not because you're being battered by teachers every day. It's not that you've been sexually assaulted by an adult and then no one believe you. It's not that, it's not that you're being lied to and gaslit, because it's really all because the government's against you. It's all Thatcher's fault. Excuse me? Yes. It's Thatcher's fault. You live in an unjust world. What? No, it's got nothing to do with the fact that you have been the victim of violence, arbitrary. You know what? It's like, I've had some fucking hammerings off members of family, and I've also had some fucking hammerings off members of the general public when I was a kid. Because when I was a kid, if you beat the crap out of a kid and you're an adult, as long as that kid had done something wrong, you were in the clear. Nobody ever got in trouble for it. I've had fucking adult men fucking smash me to pieces when I've been 7. Battered. Yeah? Sometimes deserved it, sometimes didn't. Sometimes I was innocent and I got the beating for somebody else. But there's an old saying someone said to me once, which has stayed with me for many years, as to if you're an innocent and you're the one who gets caught and you're the one who gets the shit kicked out of them by somebody 20 years older than you, right? And you're a little kid and they're fucking stamping on your head, yeah? Looking to break your fucking bones. And it's a matter of, if you hang around with crows, don't be so surprised when people throw stones. And it's a matter of the company you keep. And it's like, oh my God, what a fucking lesson I learned there. And I'm like, you're right, mate. The company you keep. Don't be surprised when you get fucking bombed. It's like this situation as to where now Zelensky, influence-wise, has become like the world's most powerful man. His words are being re-reported as fact. Okay, so when this fucking idiot says you need the other side of the story, it's like, okay, so I have to listen to Zelensky. And it's like, I've been paying attention to what that guy's been saying recently. He's a fucking liar. He's a fantasist. It's like, I know a thing or two about psychology that no human in the world can deny. That affects all. And I look at that guy and I think, this guy's a fantasist. This guy's a fantasist and he's the centre of the fucking universe. And he's willing to fight to the last drop of someone else's blood and mouth off the rhetoric, and in mouthing off rhetoric be called brave and heroic. What kind of fucking world are we living in when mouthing off and being a fantasist gets you called heroic? When demanding a no-fly zone that will lead to nuclear war? Heroic. When demanding weapons be given to his ostensible side. And it's like, do you know his side are? I do. Don't you think every fucking right-wing radical idiot in Europe hasn't made their way to Ukraine? Was it generation identity and the like? Don't you think they've all turned up there to get used as cannon fodder? You're our Foreign Legion. Welcome to the Ukraine Foreign Legion. And he'd be, hang on a minute, that's not a death's head on your uniform, is it? Yeah. And you get there and you come to realise, oh, I've signed up to fight for the Nazis. People living in a fucking dream world who talk about white ethno-state, talk about our land, our history, our blood, and would see those who aren't them as being the other and not deserving of breath. It's like hatred. Hatred. And we've been infected by it. Ukraine's hatred for Russia has been foisted upon us. And if we don't accept it, we're somehow complicit with the Russians, who are evil and aggressive. Oh, back to Crimea. Waiting for someone to come to me and say, well, they invaded Crimea. It's like, no, they didn't. When everything kicked off, right? When everything kicked off in Kiev and the puppet government was installed and the democratic process was, it didn't work for them, so they just abandoned it. And then the Americans come along and recognize the new government of the Ukraine. It's like, okay, the Americans give you international recognition, so now therefore, as they say, these are the legitimate government of the Ukraine. These are the democratically elected, independent, sovereign government. And it's like, no, America declared them that. Obama said they were that, and therefore they are. But the democratic process was thrown out of the window. They threw their constitution away, and because they didn't get the result they wanted in the impeachment of the then president, they just abandoned the process, and instead the US made a statement recognizing the new government of Ukraine. And then the people of Crimea, who see themselves as being Russian, they were afraid that these right-wing people would infiltrate their country and do the same. It's an island, Crimea. It's its own country. It's its own place. They were frightened that the right-wing, American-backed Nazi thugs would invade them. So they had a referendum. Would you like to rejoin Russia, or would you like to stay in Ukraine? And the referendum came back like 90% turnout. 96% of people said, Russia. I want to be Russia. So then the West, right, reported it as a fixed election, a rigged election, a rigged process. It's like, you can't win with these guys, can you? The answer is no. They've already decided who they want to win. They've already decided who the good guys are. They don't care about facts. They don't care about who's who. They've decided that their guys are the good guys. So then, when Russia moved into Crimea without firing a shot, just drove in. Right, we're going to provide security. Why? Because you demanded it. The people demanded it with the referendum, but yeah, obviously, Putin fixed the referendum. The people, they want to be part of the Ukraine because they're racist right-wing people too. And it's a matter of, well, those people who run it, they don't like Ruskies or kikes. So it's like, the people of the Ukraine, to those people, are not human. They are second-class citizens. So it's like, help us, Russia. We don't want to be enslaved in our own country. It's like, what did we hear of? Invasion of Ukraine. The narrative being that Russia are taking advantage of the political turmoil. These people just want to be free. They just want their independence. Yeah, their independence to fire home their hate-driven way of things. You know that Zelensky had one of his aides shot in the head, accused of being a Russian spy, because he stepped back an inch and said, hey, hang on a minute, maybe it's not a good idea to poke the bear anymore because they're not playing games, and they've got plenty of good reason to come after us now because we've cost them billions. We've done everything we could to damage Russia's reputation in the eyes of the world and the world, because we're American backed. They believe us. Don't you think he's got a good reason to come in here and kill every single fucking one of us? And part of me says, yeah, he has. You're likely going to get what's coming to you. And it's like these fucking twats who run Ukraine, Zelensky, Klitschko, and the like. When push comes to shove, they'll run for their fucking lives. They'll be given asylum in the West and called freedom fighters. And they'll be from the outside fighting to win back our country. And they'll be hailed as heroes when they'll have left everyone else to die while they run for their lives. You got fucking Klitschko mouthing off, we're ready to fight, we're ready to fight. It's like, I bet you don't fucking fire a shot, mate. You'll be fucking gone. You're going to hide behind every single one of these fucking warm blood bags, these meat shields you've deployed. It's like, when's that not evil? It's like the Ukrainian government are evil. They're disgusting people, evil. It's like dead people to them are like political assets. Corpses, always in their favour. Always play it as to say the Russians did this. It's like people have been getting killed in Kiev. All kinds of people have been getting killed in Kiev, and it's like the Russian army isn't in Kiev yet. Although people keep getting killed and assassinated in Kiev, and they're saying, oh, this is the Russians, they've sent infiltrators. Have they? So there's actually a Russian witch hunt going on, and there's summary executions happening. What? Yeah, they're those kind of people. Oh, you're not worth nothing alive to those guys. You're not worth anything alive, but dead, you're worth something. You're a news story. You're a picture that can be, and a message that can be sent around the world. And to quote Zelensky and his fantasy, fucking histrionic performance. Have you ever heard of Chernobyl? This is like Chernobyl times 100. They're trying to cause a nuclear meltdown. And then Biden repeats the same rhetoric, and it's not true. Stop talking about it now because it's done its job. Russian woman goes on television with a card saying, ignore the propaganda. Right? And they're saying, she'll be killed. She'll be sent to a gulag. She'll be tortured to death. She got a £215 fine and she didn't even lose her job. What would have happened to someone who did that in the West? Well, I can tell you. You ever heard of Glenn Greenwald? Glenn Greenwald, he lives in Brazil now. Why? Because if he ever steps in America again, they're going to have him arrested. Why? Because he broke Edward Snowden's story. What was Edward Snowden's story? Oh, that the NSA are spying on all the world leaders. Excuse me. Yeah, they bugged their mobile phones. They actually spy on their allies. They've been reading Angela Merkel's text messages. What happened over that? Well, the US denied it. They denied the existence of the PRISM system, which he claimed was a piece of equipment that they had, that they could break any encryption in the world and they could access anyone's phone, anyone's computer. Instead of, something being done about it, instead of like this international war crimes tribunal, international criminal court, instead of them indicting Obama and Hillary Clinton and asking questions of the US, they just made it so that Edward Snowden had to defect to Russia. Made it so Glenn Greenwald had to stay out of the country. And it's never been spoken of again. And say when the exclusive of that story appeared in The Guardian, that was the last day that The Guardian was actually a newspaper and not a propaganda rag. Ain't it a funny old fucking world? What a fucking stitch up. It's like the West's involvement in this is a double down because they don't need the world to know how badly they've intervened in this and what side they have backed in a civil war and what country they're destabilised at no cost to themselves other than dollars, where they've used those Ukrainian people as meat shields and human sacrifices. It's like, it's back on. It's like Trump got impeached for speaking to Zelensky without the deep state knowing about it. It's like, he's our guy, you can't talk to him. You can't talk to him because there's things he might say that will bring us down. They impeached Trump for even addressing the subject of Ukraine. Impeached him. Wanted him out of power. Wanted to remove him from office because he'd spoken to Zelensky. What does that say? The Russia Gate. 4 years of lies. The Russians control Trump. The Russians control Trump. Trump's a Russian agent. The Russians interfered with our election. And eventually, because that's what people do, they've all started to believe the rhetoric. And then when provocation becomes unbearable in the Ukraine and Russia decide, well, no one's listening to us, maybe they'll take us seriously if we start shooting at them. And they're still not being taken seriously. It's like, do you know who's got the goods on all these guys? All of them. All these crooks in the West. The New World Order, as they call it. The globalists. Do you know who's got the goods on all of them? Putin. But we're not to believe a single word that Putin says because he's a liar and it's all propaganda. Really. It's like the biggest liars in the world are accusing Putin of being a liar. What was last week something that would get you called, you're probably racist and homophobic. This week you are a Russian agent or spy. I'm waiting to be accused of being a Russian spy. No one's accused me of being a Russian spy yet. But it's like the same kind of people who online actively support the likes of the Ukrainian neo-Nazi fucking ethno-state accuse me of being a Jew, a Mossad agent. So it's like, what was once my actions, you're a Mossad agent. Well, when's that going to turn us to where you're working for the Russians? Why? Because unfortunately, I'm not someone who can just forget things and ignore things and go against my morals and principles. I can't do that. I can't live like that. So I have to, if I know something, I can't not know it. You'd have to pay me a fortune to shut me up. It's like somebody out there, pay me a fortune and I'll just shut up and never say anything, but it costs you a lot of money to shut me up. And then I might renege on it and just take your money and say, do what America did with the Russians when they promised not a step forward. NATO will not expand, and then expand to 13 extra countries after they said they wouldn't. I'll just do that and say, I'm clever, you're stupid. You're stupid for taking me at my word. You're stupid for believing my lies. And I'm the clever one, and I'm in the right because obviously you're the evil Russians. It's like, people need to get a grip of what people are capable of. Refusing to believe what people are capable of is why we had a Holocaust. It's why we had the Holodomor. It's why we had, like, the worst conditions humans have ever been faced with at the hands of the Japanese in the Second World War. Oh, really, John? Surely human beings are not that cruel. Like, oh well, if you condition them from birth to believe that, like, we are the God's chosen people, and we have to keep our kind of bloodlines and genetics pure because we're the best, and everyone else, vermin, Ruskies, kikes, fuck them, niggers, fuck them. You've been raised in that kind of hatred. You hate, therefore you feel good about yourself. You hate, therefore I'm better than them. It's like, people are born into it. I was born into it. I escaped from it. Others need to escape from it too, if there's any of us left. Because there's something I know. There are those in the world who let the world burn so long as they don't get exposed for being the evil scumbags they are. They will let millions die as long as their secrets remain secret.